All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a discussion about inspiration, where it comes from. And we're going to be tackling the question of whether or not originality is overrated here. This is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to come up with a bunch of examples, and hopefully, do you think Andy will settle the matter of whether or not originality is overrated
Once
or
and for all, this is
once
the
and for all?
definitive conversation. We're putting this one to bed forever.
You heard it, folks. You heard it. So that's what's going to happen. So make sure you watch the whole discussion in order to learn about that. But my
We won't
guess,
tell you the answer until the very end.
until the last second, yes or no, you'll have it. But we are going to have, I think we're going to get into some kind of shenanigans here because my guest is none other than A.R. Witham, or as I'm going to be calling him, Andy, author of this book right here, among others. I happen to have the copy of The Legend of Blackjack, but you are also the author of how many books, Andy, have you written now?
Don't Die Dave makes it 5 official full books. I've got one anthology, I've got one novella, and I've got 2 short stories. So it's starting to round out into a library. So
I
that's a good
like
thing.
it. I like it. So awesome. And we are going to be talking especially about Don't Die Dave, which I listened to on audiobook. And I have to tell you folks, first right out of the gate here, that was a delightful experience. I loved Don't Die Dave. And just the quick pitch is if you like Dungeon Crawler Carl, you really will probably love Don't Die Dave. So we'll talk about it because this is going to fall into this discussion as well about inspiration and when is it a ripoff and when is it an homage? What's the difference? Okay. I had a lot of examples that I hit you with, Andy, as we were discussing this idea. For me, an obvious one is going to be Lord of the Rings is inspired so many, and Tolkien in turn, of course, was inspired by many things that I'm pretty familiar with as a medievalist. But if you look at fantasy in the 1980s, a lot of it is very Tolkien inspired, shall we say? For example, The Wheel of Time. The first book, especially in The Wheel of Time. Oh my goodness, are those Nazguls or are they, you know, at least he disguised the Gandalf as a woman in Moray,
Sure.
right?
Just do a little gender swap.
Yep. I mean, it's pretty on the nose, and the Emmons Field, very Shire-like. I think it's fair to say. Even in terms of not just these, we can name a bunch of these similarities, but in terms of the narrative beats, you can see a lot of. Almost map it one for one onto Fellowship of the Ring, at least. But then, of course, Robert Jordan took that series in a different direction eventually and did something else. So that for me is also a very important point. Another one, maybe even more on the nose than that, would be The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks. Very much on the nose, and I think you're familiar with that one. And I'm
So
told it does, like Jordan's series, eventually go its own direction, but you're familiar with both series as well, right? I've read Sword of Shannara, and and my 18-year-old self was like, no, this is a ripoff. I will not read further in this because this man has stolen from my hero, J.R.R. Tolkien. But have you read on in the Shannara series?
the whole reason I started writing was because my mom called Terry Brooks when I was in middle school and had him come and stay at our house so that we could have a young authors convention. So I had Terry Brooks at my dinner table when I was in 8th grade. And I'm just sitting there going, I love you so much. And I'm just asking all of those stupid questions that I was sure he was completely sick of answering even by then. And I had already read Sword of Shannara because let's remember, folks, way back in the early days of nothing, there was nothing to read because you could read Tolkien or you could read Stephen R. Donaldson, which was not the same thing.
No. Although he was inspired by Tolkien, but I think he did something very different.
Yeah, Lord Fell's Bane is not what an 8th grader needs to be reading. So,
No, probably not. That is so cool that you met Terry Brooks. Yeah,
oh yeah, and so like ever since that, and he did this great thing where he was very patient. He answered every single question I had, and he said, "Just keep going."
uh-huh.
And so it was like, okay, here's my short story. Here's my stuff. And the year after year, I would just send him my stuff. until I think the last time I saw him was maybe 3 years ago. He was at a local Barnes and Noble doing a book signing, and I brought one of the Emmy awards, and I said, "This is because of you." And we got a picture of the two of us together with the award. So
That's so cool.
I
Wow.
love him. He's a great inspiration and total ripoff of Lord of the Rings. And remember that book kind of started off as a bet, right? Terry was a lawyer, and Lester Del Rey said, "No, no, no, we can't sell any fantasies." Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just do Lord of the Rings, and we'll rinse and repeat, and we'll go from there. And yes, it's derivative. Yes, there's a lot of things in there that are stolen. Yes, there's a lot of the beats are very much the same.
Yeah.
And yet he carved out his own story out of that drew the attention of a lot of people that were begging for something that was not Lord Fellsbane. And so we wound up with this Shannara series that every single, starting with Elfstones of Shannara,
That's the
you
second
start
one,
getting,
right?
yeah, the second one, you start getting, whoa, we are in a different place now, because now we got demons that are hunting them down, and that's the whole basis of the story. It's like, oh wow, cool. Then we go to Wish Song, and the whole magic system changes. It's like, okay, so I think it's fair to say derivative. I think it is absolutely fair to say derivative. He said so himself.
Uh-huh.
But also, as the story continues, much in the same way as Michael Jordan is,
Robert Jordan.
Robert B.
I
Jordan.
mean, Robert Jordan is entirely, Michael Jordan is an original, right?
Right. Michael Jordan is also not a good writer. I just terrible. I would not read any of his books.
I haven't read any of his books either. He has nice shoes, though, I hear.
Absolutely. Which are also referenced in But Don't Die, Dave, along with every pop
That's
culture item
true.
you've ever seen in your
This is
life.
true. But yeah, your point was that Robert Jordan and Terry Brooks did something similar. They started with a Lord of the Rings, if you want to say ripoff, okay, but they take those series
Homage,
and they be
pastiche.
homage, what, yeah, they take them into to become something else, don't they? I mean, by the time you get deep into those series, you recognize, okay, this is this author's own vision at this point, but that was a jumping off point, and that's not that uncommon, is it,
No,
in writing, especially in the fantasy genre, I think.
I completely agree. We can dig in a little bit now if you want to on the idea of inspiration, because I honestly feel like none of this stuff gets developed in a vacuum. We have this. You've done this.
Right.
You as a writer, you don't start with zero. You start with every book you've ever read, every movie you've ever seen, every television show you've ever had, every conversation you've ever been a part of, and all of that colors what you're doing.
Right.
And when you start off with an idea, it's like, well, I'm going to take, this is what we used to do in my Hollywood days. You would take two movies and you would jam them together and go, okay, it's Die Hard meets a bus. Okay, it's called Speed. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you would go from there, and that's the ideas don't just self-generate out of an acorn and become their own idea. They're fed by all kinds of different things
Right.
so that they become what they are. And I think all writers start with, well, what if I did this and this, and maybe threw in a little bit of this? And that's how you get, quite frankly, the cool stuff is, what's your spice? What are you putting in there?
Right.
Right? How many Dunes have we had? Well, Dune is Dune, but we've had so many sci-fi books and stories and movies that use Dune as a foundation
Yep.
and then build off from there.
I'm reading
And
one right now. I'm reading the Sun Eater series, and I got to tell you, a lot of the superficial, the world building stuff is just straight out of Dune. But on a deeper level, even I think it is much more influenced by Book of the New Sun, like some of
mhm,
the narrative, the essentially the journey of the main character, the protagonist, the first person narrator. That you would not have Hadrian Marlowe without Severian from Book of the New Sun. You just wouldn't. And there is something really just about his basic relationships with other people, some just very important similarities. That said, for me, I actually like Sun Eater. I'm 3 books in, and I like Sun Eater more than Book of the New Sun. I actually think it's an improvement in many ways. I'm much more emotionally invested in Sun Eater than I ever was in Book of the New Sun. So, what's wrong with that? If an author takes a concept or an idea and obviously puts their own twist on it, puts their own stamp on it, and even in some cases, rather than just saying, oh, this is derivative, they make an improvement on it, at least from my perspective on this one. But I'm sure there are other examples where that's happened, where the original has, for many people, not as engaging as the new thing. So isn't that how storytelling works? Don't we stand on the shoulders of giants and
That's the one.
yeah,
That's exactly it. Exactly where I wanted to go. And I think from a reader perspective, you don't see it, right? Because you approach everything as its own new piece, and you kind of walk in and go, "Oh, wow, this is really interesting. It's called Avatar, and they've got blue aliens, and they've got all these different kind of conflicts going on." Until you realize that, oh, wait, it's Dances with Wolves. Oh, it's the exact same story. It's just set in space. It doesn't make Avatar worse. It just gives it a foundation to live on. And standing on the shoulders of his giants is exactly it. And I think from Beowulf on,
mm,
you're looking at that group of fantasy stories from Gilgamesh, right? You're just kind of building that fantasy story that becomes its hero with a thousand faces.
hmm
It's you've got some ideas that are always need to happen in a story to make a story satisfying. And readers don't need to think about that, but writers do. And so you've got these elements that need to be in there, and then you've got a framework that already works and you already love, and so you start playing in that box, and it
okay.
becomes a very, very cool sandbox to kick around in. And we're all building off of what the last guy or the last gal has done. um,
But does it
and
diminish? Does it diminish a story if people can say, "Oh, look at that. That's taken straight out of this. Oh, that's Dune right there. I can see that." Does that diminish a story in some way in your mind, as opposed to something where nobody can tell where this came from?
I think it's that line out of Hamlet: there is no good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's the idea, what are you going to let this get in the way of your enjoyment?
Hmm.
Or do you love the original work, so original work that is standing on the shoulders of other giants,
Exactly.
so much that it precludes your enjoyment of this new story? That's up to the reader, right? It's can you accept this new thing? Like, you take Hunger Games. Okay, great. We've got Hunger Games. This is really cool and interesting. And you could even say Hunger Games is derivative of, oh, I don't know, Harry Potter. We've got a school
Yeah.
that's going on, and we're going to train the, okay, and now they're all going to go and kill each other instead of doing Harry Potter stuff. And then that evolved to, oh, I don't know, let's say Red Rising, right? Did the fact that you really liked Hunger Games stop you from really enjoying Red Rising? Well, wait, they're built on the same platform.
Yeah.
How could like one and not the other? So
Or
I,
even
I
you could
think,
say archetype. Are they deriving from the same archetype? In other words, a pattern of storytelling. Can we
yeah,
call that the orphan goes to magic school archetype? Because you've got all the way back to A Wizard of Earthsea. But then you've got things like The Name of the Wind, which I think is a big inspiration behind The Will of the Many,
yes,
which is a big hit nowadays, and everybody thinks, "Wow, what a great original story!" But no, actually, this story's been told a few times. This time we have togas, so
exactly. We're going to throw a little Latin in here, and everybody will think it's intellectual. But did you not enjoy Will of the Many because you really liked Red Rising?
yeah,
Oh no, I can't read Name of the Wind because I really enjoyed Wizard of Earthsea. It's I think, does the author bring something new to it? And even more importantly than that, is it a story that you can enjoy,
yeah,
right? Red Rising captures the imagination of certain kinds of people that want that kind of let's go against the system vibe. And you can keep reading new go against the system vibes over and over again and be happy. Some of those books are going to be better than others, but they're all swimming in the same pool. And Will of the Many, I thought, was amazing. You can draw comparisons between that and Red Rising all day long.
hmm
But once again, does it stop you? And for me, it's absolutely I don't think ever, even when you look at something as obvious as, and I was a kid, but Sword of Shannara, um, did it stop me from enjoying the book that I loved Tolkien and this was the next thing on the list? No, I'm 100% in. Give me elves and bows and some magic and I'm good to go.
So you were less of a snob than I was then.
Well, but it's also, do you like it? I think sometimes
Uh-huh.
you hit a book that you don't like. Okay, that's not a problem. And then you go, well, I didn't like it because it wasn't as good as what I experienced in this other book that was telling the same story. And that's super valid
Right.
because that's my opinion. It's my experience. I'm reading the story, I'm experiencing this. Does it work for me? Which
Yeah.
is why you don't have a book that works for everybody, which is why you don't have agreement on all subjects. This is a good thing. Different people need different books.
Yeah.
And so I the idea that building and standing on the shoulders of giants and derivative is baked into every single story that you've ever read.
Yeah.
How much are you willing to forgive it?
What's the secret sauce, though? What makes something that obviously every story ever told is except for maybe the first story, whatever that was. We don't know what that was. Even Gilgamesh had predecessors. We just that's the first
Right?
recorded story.
Bob fell down a hill. That was the first story.
We could improve from there, probably.
Well, it had action. I liked it. I was worried for Bob.
It was fast paced as well.
More
So
quickly.
not much character depth, but hey.
No.
But what is the secret sauce? What is it that makes one book feel like it's done something new, even though it probably hasn't? Or what makes something like we've talked about a lot of very popular books that have made a big splash. I don't know if The Will of the Many will be around in 20 years, 30 years. It's certainly made
Oh,
a big splash now.
this is our measurement bar. Okay,
Well, 50 years, 100 years, whatever. Lord of the
you're
Rings
going
has
for
had a
all
pretty
time.
good run. Lord of the Rings has had a pretty good run. But it's still, if we're talking about modern fantasy and in terms of just being not fantasy, not the fantastic going back to, you know, the ancient myths and legends and whatnot, but more like modern fantasy stories that are the creation of an individual that probably have a lot of inspiration from some of that older forms of storytelling. But you know, so we've got certainly Tolkien wasn't the first. There were others writing what I could consider modern fantasy in the 19th century. You've got your William Morris, you've got George MacDonald, and so on. And you've got
Wow.
the early
Oh,
ones.
right. You have a degree. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. I wrote my dissertation on William Morris, so I better know that one. Um,
It's a terminal degree, folks. You don't get higher.
yeah. uh, Terminal as in like cancer or something.
Mhm.
You stop there, right? But we'll be
Degree in
talking about
literature.
that.
You're dead.
We'll be talking about that when we talk about Dave later, of course. But yeah, I guess what I'm getting at here is some stick around, some don't, and you can't always tell right away. Some make a big splash and then disappear. But what is it about certain stories like Lord of the Rings that has given it legs, that have made it so influential, that it's almost a cultural icon? I think you could also say A Song of Ice and Fire, or as more people know it, Game of Thrones reached a similar status. Harry Potter certainly reached a similar status. None of these are entirely original. So what is it? What is that thing that makes them do that, that makes them feel like they stand above others, in the sense that, is it just that they're better executed, they hide their influences better? What do you think it is?
Well, I think Stephen King had the answer, which was cocaine. I think that's really the thing that sends it over the top.
He's done pretty well. He did pretty well, I guess, for a while.
Oh my gosh, those first 7 books were killer. I mean, just rocking his way through it. And then you realize, oh crap, like every musician I've ever listened to, all of this is drug induced. Okay. And the speed at which he was producing is amazing.
Somehow I don't think
Um,
J.R.R. Tolkien was snorting anything, though.
right. I'm probably guess he and C.S. Lewis hanging out at a hookah bar doing a bunch of
The Inklings. What did the Inklings actually get up to? Yeah.
um I think that's a really difficult question to answer, and we both could probably go on about it
Yeah.
forever. I have an answer that I think is one of the ingredients that needs to be in there, and it's truth.
Hmm.
There needs to be a human truth that is baked into that cake, that becomes part of that vein, that is part of every heartbeat, that resonates with people, right? You relate to Frodo. It doesn't matter that he's a hobbit that lives in a fantasy world. You identify with what he wants and who he is and what he's trying to be, and the draw toward good and righteousness and trying to do something bigger for other people. And that is an aspiration that most of us have. And being able to take that truth and layer that into friendship
Hmm.
and fear of the unknown and the Nazgul and what they represent, and Sauron and what he represents, and the greed for power that Saruman represents, right?
Yeah.
It's you can get very English lit with it very quickly, and once you start analyzing it, you kill it, because there's an amalgamation of magic that weaves together that makes it work, that hopefully defies understanding or passes understanding. At that point is where it becomes magical. But if you take it apart into component pieces, I think the thing that's always at the bottom of it is truth.
No, I love that answer. And I want to turn it on you then and ask you what, before we get into how Dungeon Crawler Carl was an inspiration for you in creating Don't Die Dave. And I want to talk about the audiobook especially here too,
Sure.
because I experienced both via audiobook, and there are some really cool things I think that we can say about that. But
Well, and
first,
you're a recent audiobook convert.
yeah.
So,
Well, it's been a little over a year, but yeah.
and by the way, we some of us in the community have gotten together, Josh and Mike and Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and we've decided that you actually need an intervention at this point. We need to cut you off from Brian Bell so he stops being an influence. Dr. Chase is reading lit RPG. What?
I
That's not
mean,
right.
yeah, Brian. Brian. He is the Grand Poobah of the Quilluminati and a terrible influence.
He
But
is.
yeah,
We
but
need to get you back on the straight and narrow, man.
yeah. But so we're gonna get into all that. But what is the truth in Don't Die Dave? And I have some answers of my own, but I want to hear what you have to say because I think you do hit on some really, in addition to just giving your listener or reader a blast, a really great time, that's there. That's all over the place. There are some big T truths in Don't Die Dave too, aren't there? There's a
Yeah.
heart to this story that I felt that you actually did a wonderful job in putting forward some really deep things in the process of telling a really fun story. So for you, as you were doing this, were you thinking about this big T truth, or was that one of the big ingredients
I
there?
mean, you've done this. You know you have to. Theme, when you're in high school, they talk about theme in your literature classes, and you're like, whatever, man. Stop making me read The Great Gatsby. I don't want to hear about it. I didn't like it. It was stupid. Right? And that's basically your reaction to it. And then the more you dig into it, you realize, oh, wait, there is a drum beat that's going on in the background. It's not stated, it's not up front, it's not obvious, but that's the whole point, is that he's telling you a story that has a different, deeper meaning that may or may not resonate you, but brother, it's there.
Yeah.
And so realizing that usually almost always is baked into a story, I think is important. And then, like with Don't Die Dave, it's there are several different layers that you can go to. It started off with the idea of unfair systems, right? And
Right.
there's
Yeah.
somewhere around COVID, I think a lot of us started feeling like we were being mashed into the ground regularly, for whatever reason. I'm not talking political. I'm just talking about the system kind of pushing you and pushing you and pushing you down
Yep.
until you're back into a corner. And obviously, with Don't Die Dave, the section of the meat press that I picked on was health insurance.
It's a system, that's for sure.
And that applies to capitalism across the board in being, it's the worst political system there is, except for all the others. But let's go ahead and point out all the problems with it.
Yep. Well, that is, I felt, one of the really important things you were doing there, and there you do have this similarity to Dungeon Crawler Carl, which there is some social critique about our consumerist culture in Dungeon Crawler Carl as well, but you're coming at it from a different angle. You're emphasizing the healthcare, but also all along, and I feel like lit RPG lends itself to this kind of social critique. I don't think it's that common. You correct me if I'm wrong, but other than Dungeon Crawler Carl, are there other lit RPG series that do this kind of meta critique of the consumerist culture that we're swept up in, of our diminishing attention spans, the tendency, the kind of the generational kind of observations about the younger people calling us all boomers, even if we're not actually boomers,
Dave hates
versus,
that. Call
right?
Dave a boomer and he'll light on fire.
Or on the other hand, the older generations dismissing the younger ones, and that's a constant thing, isn't it?
Right. None
But
of this is new. This generational battle has happened over and over and over and over again since the
right,
beginning of time. There is no older generation that thinks the third generation that thinks the first generation is doing really well and
right,
they're totally responsible and the boy we're really excited about the future that they're bringing to our world. No, the older generation is pissed off and angry because they aren't showing the same level of responsibility that they, oh by the way, had to learn over the course of the last 40 years from when they were down here.
yeah,
And meanwhile, the young kids are looking up at the old people and saying, get out of my way and stop telling me what the rules are. This goes round and round.
yep.
And then you've got that generation in the middle going, stop.
And but then of course overlaying that is this consumerism that
Mm.
sweeps up every generation. And this the critique of consumerism goes, you can go all about back to Dickens, in the 19th century if you want. But I felt that one of the things I loved about Dungeon Crawler Carl was that it wasn't just explosions and lasers and running all over the place. There was some really, actually, I thought, sharp social critiques in that story. I don't know if that's the thing that people always talk about when they talk about DCC, but it's there. It's certainly there. And
But you need Donut to get them in the door,
yeah,
right? You
yeah,
need explosions and grenades and goblin juice and Donut. You need
right.
the jokes. And here's the thing that blew me away. Don't Die Dave got written because Dungeon Crawler Carl jumped on my face and wouldn't let go. I got done reading it and I thought, okay, this was pretty good. And I read maybe 2, 3 more books. And I figured out that all I could think about was Dungeon Crawler Carl. And all I wanted to do was go back and read the next book.
Yeah,
So it's like this big magnet. But number one, I did not know that we were allowed to be that crazy in public. I had, these are conversations that you have when you're out at a bar with your friends
yeah,
and you get in a good rhythm and the jokes are bouncing around and you're playing verbal racquetball. That's what reading that book was like to me. And then you get to the part where I fell in love with DCC was glurp glurp, right? And it kills me that didn't come back because I thought that was the strongest part of the first book, that you had this
so
audience
you
that was
created Blap
drawn in.
Blap in
Blap
response.
blap,
Yeah.
right? It is the one part that I will confess that I absolutely said I want that chapter and moved it over into my thing, and I painted it a different way and we've got a different theme going on, but it is the one thing that because Blap Blap is my response to Glurp Glurp, which is, but except Blap Blap keeps coming back. And I
Okay.
love the idea, the social commentary idea of
Yeah,
the audience as victim.
yeah,
Oh, I love it because I've got a 14-year-old son and
huh,
I see what he goes through and what gets fed and what gets crammed down his throat when
right.
he's watching YouTube, right? This is the stuff that is algorithmed right into his head. And this is what we're going to feed him, whether he wants it to or not. It is generational, it is built in, it is 6, 7. So that's what he's going to get. And recognizing that the audience, in part, is the victim of what is being presented to them, I think is a killer idea. So that was a big bottle rocket for Don't Die Dave, because just
So
like, I want to.
would you agree, and this is my perception, but I want to hear what you think, that as much as I did love what Matt Dinniman did in Dungeon Crawler Carl in regard to this, in regard to consumerism and the ways in which our brains are changing because of consumerism, and how it's actually really bad for us. But a few people are profiting from it. So, and we're all like guinea pigs and or lemmings or something, right? Um,
Lemmings is good.
I do feel though that you took it a little further, do you agree with that? And this is another. I think this goes back to our conversation about how inspiration can work and what you can do. So you saw something that was being done, and you probably didn't think to yourself, "Oh, I can do that better," but it was more like, "Oh, maybe I could take this a little further here," right? Um, I feel like that is something that was happening in Don't Die Dave, where you took this critique in this form of a lit RPG, which and there are different premises behind all this because I don't think it's too spoilery to reveal here that in the case of Dungeon Crawler Carl, you have an alien species that comes down and essentially makes a video game out of Earth. You could call it, or a game show. Let's say a game show out of Earth. Whereas what you've got is a healthcare system, slightly futuristic, but not that far in the future. How far are we in the future here? Like a decade or two, maybe?
Well, let's call it alternate reality,
Okay.
because
All right.
the Gen X thing has to
Yeah,
stick,
that's true.
right?
That's true. Yeah.
Because the other inspiration for Don't Die Dave was Forrest Gump.
Ah,
The
okay.
boomers got theirs. Why can't we have ours?
Yeah.
So Don't Die Dave is Gen X's Forrest Gump.
So the mechanism though here for the lit RPG is it's a video game, but you're put inside the video game if by a corporation and a
Yeah.
nasty one at that,
In
that
order to
essentially
pay for your health
to
insurance.
pay for your health insurance. So you got to stay alive in the game to stay alive literally. So that's kind of the premise here. So you have a slightly different mechanism to get you into the game or the book or what have you. But I feel like you use this as a really brilliant way to formulate a pretty consistent message about consumerism and its effects on us. And versus and there's a counterbalance to this in the story, and you can see it happening as well in Dungeon Crawler Carl. But again, I feel like you're doing it a little more explicitly, a little more intentionally, maybe. It's friendship. It's the human element. It's the counter to that sterile consumerism, that corporate minded, just soulless existence that we seem to be sliding into.
You exist for profit.
There's a thing called friendship and fellowship that is the cure for this, in a sense. And that I feel you're exploring that explicitly in there, right?
Absolutely. And the thing, like with Dungeon Crawler Carl, I didn't know we were allowed to be this crazy in public. The other thing that Dungeon Crawler Carl did was, there are two things that you cannot sell. One is humor. You cannot sell a humor book, right? That is the toughest pitch you will ever run into. And two is satire.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do this. And I'm a Vonnegut guy. I'm an Indianapolis native, man. I got
Nice.
Vonnegut baked into my blood. And to me, I always loved what he brought because it was all satire and all comedy, and there's no option to make that in this world and have anybody read it, because you can't pitch a humorous satire. However, if you stick some strength scores on it and some hit points and some experience points, all of a sudden satire becomes palatable.
Yeah. I could see where a story like Harrison Bergeron could be a big influence for you
Right?
right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great Vonnegut short story. Everyone should read it. Yeah.
Well, across the board, and the great thing about Vonnegut is he never quits.
Yeah.
Right? He never stops sticking jabs at the entirety of the human existence. However, he always does it with love.
Yeah.
Right? These are friendly jabs. These are Me Too moments. These
Yeah.
are, yeah, we're here to fart around and don't let anybody tell you any different.
Right.
right? Don't take it too seriously, folks. And I think that's what makes Vonnegut work so well is don't take it too seriously, folks. Let's talk about the Dresden bombing and millions of people being killed and children being sent to war, but don't take it too seriously, folks.
Yeah.
And that balance is what makes it so beautiful. So Dungeon Crawler Carl comes along and says, hey, guess what? You can do satire, you can do humor, and you can sell them in a different package
Yeah.
that people are going to want to pick up because the action's baked into the cake. You've got stat scores, you've got constant dopamine hits. You can do whatever you want in this game environment that you've created. And so with Dinneman, he was looking at social, making fun of social norms and screwing around with that. But you've also got stuff where like Ball of Swine, right? It's just
Yeah.
a bad pun that closes out Act 3, and it's a great idea, and it's funny, and it's great. So
Yeah.
I think the thing with satire is as long as you do it with love at the center of it, which is what you're saying about friendship, then it becomes a lot more palatable, and you can't ever take it too seriously
Right.
because you kill the pig walking in the door if you take it too seriously. It's just like, no, let this run around a little bit, have a little bit of fun with it. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing too, is I think that's one of the big reasons why Dungeon Crawler Carl works so well, is because people were not allowed to be this crazy in public. People were looking for fun. We're so heavy and we're so thick and we're so attacked constantly, and then we decide to read these big long fantasy books that are deep with meaning and thought and consideration, and the plots go on forever, and sometimes you just want to blow the doors off and Douglas Adams this thing.
Yeah. 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 Oh man. And of course, another important in terms of this friendship thing that you're exploring in here and doing a beautiful job of, the one of the key
Right.
elements here, in a way similar, you're going to get comparisons. I think it's going to natural thing. You're going to get comparisons between um, Donut and Pepper. Um, of
Animal
course,
companion.
there's the sidekick, the animal companion, but Pepper is not a diva. Pepper is almost obnoxiously cute.
Pepper
And
is very obnoxiously cute.
yeah. Fine. Pepper is a digital penguin, a relic of, and I love, by the way, how much you bring in the 80s in this. It's just so great that, of course, you and I are a similar age, I think.
Well, it's that Gen X thing, and I need my Forrest Gump. But in addition, as the book moves along, you move to millennial, then you move to Zoomers, then you move to Alpha, and finally at a skibbity toilet with Mr. Beast's head at the end of the story. And it's just like, okay, we're not just Gen Xing this thing.
Right. No, you do include all those generations very, very generously, I would say. Yes.
Well, and being able to pull from those cultural moments like Cabbage Patch Kids.
But you
Oh, by
also
the
have,
way,
go
while
ahead.
I'm thinking of it, because I know I'm going to drop this and I need to say this out loud to you while we're here, there is a joke in that book that is specifically written for you
No
because I
way.
think you are the only person that was going to get it. I was like, okay, I'm going to put in one for Philip. And it's while the Ampersand twins are doing their run with Aragorn and
Oh,
blow him. Well, sorry, something happens at the end of that episode, and the video gets posted. Is what was it? It was Isildur's error. I was like, that's for Philip. I'm leaving that in.
I do appreciate the dad joke there, and you're absolutely right. That one actually does tickle my fancy.
Right?
Yeah,
And
Sildur
I think the other
Air.
one that got left in for you was the Dissimmerillion. But
Okay.
yeah, being able to pepper that stuff, because not everybody's going to get all the references. That's
No.
okay, right? As long as you've got something for them to touch base with periodically, it doesn't matter if you know that joke. We're moving on, right? There's another 20 jokes in the chapter. You're going to be okay.
But you also do have the millennial stuff, and you've got the Gen Y or whatever they're called, or the
Zoomers.
Yeah, you nailed the lingo. I guess having a 14-year-old son comes in handy sometimes.
Dude. Oh, I'm sorry, not dude. Bro, bro,
Bro,
bro, bro,
bro,
bro, bro, bro,
bro.
bro, bro, bro.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. All I had to do to write this book was listen to my son play video games. That's it. You just write down everything you hear, which is why I got to the thing with the cursing, right? It was like I
Right.
cannot write a book about 14-year-old gamers without including lots of cursing
Yeah.
because that's what they do the entire time they're on. They try to hide it from you. But if I go down and listen to them, it's just F bomb, F bomb, F bomb. It's like, dude, I remember being in middle school. Can you calm it down a little bit? You're not trying to push the envelope here.
Right. Well, and the irony, of course, being that the corporate entity that owns all of this has this rule about cursing for the NPCs, and then you get all these players in there. So yeah, the squeaky clean image, the squeaky clean corporate image doesn't exactly
Hey, you
gel.
T for teen.
Exactly, exactly. So one of the great things about Dungeon Crawler Carl for me was the audiobook experience.
Yeah.
And I have to say that Jeff Hayes is a genius. That the guy is absolutely mind-blowingly fantastic as an audiobook narrator. You're in that circle, Andy. You're up there. You did a phenomenal job with
Oh,
Don't Die Dave. No, no, no. Just take it, man, because it was a wonderful, wonderful performance. Just and you put I can tell you put a ton of work into this. Like this had to have taken a lot of time a long
yeah.
time because you've got a lot of voices in there, and I have to think like for voices like Pepper, there must be some way you're getting the register because can you actually do that without any assistance, or is
So
that
So when you do Pepper, you go up here and you go, "Oh, that's okay, Dave. We'll have a great time."
yeah,
And then you take it in post and you raise the pitch and you remove the foments out
okay,
of the center and you wind up with this nice little high pitch. And the problem is normally is that it gets chipmunky, it gets squeaky.
yeah,
And for Pepper, that's fine.
yeah, yeah, it works for Pepper, yeah,
And
huh,
you're looking for uber super cute and cartoony works just fine. We're okay with Pepper. Oh, and going back to your idea of Pepper is like Pepper is not donut. Well, Dave is not Carl, right?
no,
The idea was, well, I've got a Gen X who is really quite frankly angry because I need this guy to be angry to make this story work. He
well, he
needs to
is
be
dying of colon cancer, right,
kind of well. He'll make jokes about that,
right,
but his life is over, right? He gave up.
right,
When his wife died, he quit. And so he's just gotten more and more bitter. And I was like, this is fine, except you need a counterpoint. So I don't need donut. If Dave is salt, I need pepper. So you need that counterbalance because it's that dichotomy that works. That's how you get your yin and your yang that
yeah,
gives you a complete circle. Because if I had Dave with donut or croc from Discount Dan or whatever,
right.
it's one of those things where it's just like, nah, this isn't going to work. So you need somebody who's the opposite of your main character, which I think is usually the goal of the animal companion.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Pepper works marvelously. I was always on Team Pepper, I can tell you that. And,
It's hard not to be. Her heart is filled with love,
yes,
and there's nothing ironic about any of it. That's part of what I like about her too, is that Dave can be as bitter as he wants. Pepper's never going to stop being upbeat, positive, and filled with love.
yeah,
That well will never run dry, and it makes her a ton of fun to write because you never get relentless positivity ever. We're all too cynical. We're all too jaded. We're all too experienced, right? And that childlike wonder walking along with you hand in hand is a delightful thing to experience.
yeah, precisely. And that's Pepper. And she opens up Dave to other relationships, which he turns out he needs to survive. So there, Anna S is a character of the next generation down after
She's our
S.
millennial.
She's a millennial. And that's a fun interaction. And then even later, you have Hank, who is 8 years old. And that is, oh, yeah, is that a spoiler? I guess that kind of is.
No,
Yeah.
it's okay.
I can always edit that out if
No,
I
no, 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 no.
no. Okay. But yeah, you've got Hank in there, who is another generation yet, and that is another way in which you allow Dave, in a big way, to develop as a character. So that's at the heart of all this. So yeah, I just
Well,
thought that was beautiful.
it's like Pepper. It's like you got to put him with people that are not like him, and he can't be always right. He needs to get hit in the face or struck with the reality. I mean, like even the stupid ampersand twins, right? These are the complete opposite of Dave. They are 100% digital natives
Yeah,
that are totally into make gamifying this thing and building up as much hype as they possibly can.
right,
And they are antagonistic to him and they know better. They are better at this than he ever will be. And
right.
he's forced to learn from these idiots that he hates because there's something worth learning there. And you putting fish out of water constantly,
Yeah.
right? And that's where the fun comes from. It's like these things are not like each other. Can they get along? Let's find out.
So this is a world in which poor Dave is definitely an underdog. He's a Gen X relic. He literally is a hobo in this world. He's a bum. So, not the most appealing of NPCs that you could have. But nevertheless, we're rooting for him. He's the underdog. You've got that going in there too, don't you?
Absolutely. Well, and the underdog to a corporation that wants him dead and owns him, right? All they're trying to do is suck some juice out of this guy laying in a hospital bed that they have to pay for, that they're never going to get any money out of,
Not a
and
problem.
try to turn him into content.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be content.
He's got a rebellious streak, our Dave.
Oh my.
It's stubbornly curmudgeon kind of thing going on there. Yeah.
He's got that kind of Gen X you kind of attitude to him.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you've managed in the process of, I think, being inspired by, and it's not just Dungeon Crawler Carl, but that's an obvious comparison to make here. And there are other things that obviously have gone into this. And many times when we're writing, we're aware of what influences are happening, but sometimes we're not. There's just so much sloshing around in here, and you may even think you're doing something really original where you're writing a scene, and then you realize 3 years later when a reader points it out, oh yeah, wait, I did read that book before I wrote, and I probably that was in there. That just happens, right?
Right. And it's absolutely not all in. We are the product of our experiences,
Right.
period. Right. From your parents on up. And when it comes to stories, it's what we've read and what we watched and what we listened to that form who we are and what we love. And if we're lucky, parts of our personality come out of stories, out of that aspirational idea of who we want to be, right? The real people in our lives can only give us so much inspiration. I think that's what we go looking for in stories is either inspiration or warnings. And we find both of them. And the ones that stick with you become part of your character. And I don't feel like we are a product of the stories that we love, but I do feel like they have a huge influence in how we approach the world and who we want to be.
Yeah. 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 Then that's the nature of what we do, isn't it? That's pretty much at the heart of it.
This is why stories never stop, right? It's the one thing that human beings are drawn to constantly.
Right.
And it all goes back to it's the audiobook, right? It's to me, the audiobook is, and why I love doing it myself is you are sitting around a campfire with a storyteller telling you a story and you're just listening to it go through. And it's that whole communal fireside gaze into the campfire, the bonfire, and imagine what this all could be. And
Yeah.
this is the thing where I think that books and audiobooks have it over on movies and television is that we are forced to create the world in our head, which makes us better people.
So, would you agree? I'm going to roughly paraphrase something that James Baldwin wrote in a short story called Sonny's Blues, which is to the effect that there isn't any other tale to tell. We just find new ways to make people listen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the cynical. Okay. I shouldn't say cynical. The I'm a lit professor position is there are only two stories, or there are only five stories, or there are only nine stories, and we tell these stories over and over again. And that's absolutely true. But at the same time, as a reader, as a listener to that story, every single one of them is unique and different because the characters that are going through that story are completely different and the reactions are completely different. How they deal with problems and the emotional effect that they have on us is completely different.
Okay.
And that's where you get the pass. There is no good or bad, but thinking makes it so. As long as a story makes me love it, I will forgive it anything.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that brings us, I think, back to our question, which we promised everyone we were going to answer for now and forever.
Definitively.
Definitively. And you're going to walk away from this video absolutely satisfied, I have no doubt. If you've stuck around this long. Is originality overrated, Andy? What's our answer to that?
Um, well,
Yes or no? That's all you get.
you've waited an hour to get the answer to this, and the answer is no. Congratulations, you found out the answer. You made it to the end. Yay for you! No, originality has to be there because we would keep telling the same story over and over again, and we would get bored of it. And the only thing that makes a story worth listening to is what new gets brought to it. If you had somebody release, I don't know, pick one, Hunger Games tomorrow, and this has been done, right? Hunger Games, it's exactly like Hunger Games, and we just kind of change the names around and we change a little bit of the scenery around and move the furniture. Nobody's interested because I've been there, I've done that, and I've seen it better, right? Can you do it better? Can you bring something more interesting to it? Can you bring something that will ignite certain people in an emotional way?
Hmm.
What are you bringing to it? And that is the originality. And you can mock originality as being only standing on the shoulders of giants, but I will contend that everyone's originality is original to them because no one has all of the same experiences. This is what makes you unique as a person, and this is what makes you unique as a storyteller. So I would say that not only is it not bad, but it's absolutely essential in order to tell good stories.
All right. Well, and I think that applies abundantly to Don't Die Dave. And I do encourage everybody to, can you actually have a copy of it behind you there? Could you hold it up close to the camera so we can take a closer look at that?
This
Very.
cover is inspired by a blue Hawaiian that I once had at a bar and thought, wow, that's a great color scheme.
It fits. It fits. I
I,
mean,
we're doing special editions of the book where it comes with a pink umbrella sticking out of the top, which would be very nice.
oh my goodness. Very nice. All right.
And the other thing I got to tell you, man, is that you and I, at our core, I think, are prose guys. I love my Guy Gavriel Kay. I
Oh yeah.
love my Robin Hobb. I love my Tolkien. And it was so hard to write something that did not put prose first.
Uh-huh.
I had to shoot myself in the head so many times saying, no, don't get flowery. No, don't get flowery. No, don't get flowery.
Right.
And it was a great writing exercise to do because it's like, this is forward momentum only, right? You are moving to not the next scene, you are moving to the next sentence. So anything that get any fat gets trimmed, and that's a great exercise. But it
Yeah.
also winds up being a great story because you 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 don't wander off. You don't get an opportunity to go wander off and make your point and do your satire and then come back to the action, right?
Right.
You better slip it in while the train is moving, or you don't get to put it in at all.
Yeah.
And that to me is the great challenge of it is just be entertaining. That
Yeah.
is the only goal.
All right. Well,
Which is
that's
also the experience with the audiobook too. The last thing I got to say is
yeah.
that Jeff Hayes, amazing. I also didn't know that we were allowed to be that crazy in public on audiobook because every audiobook I'd done 4 audiobooks of my own.
Yeah.
I did it the way that everybody else did it, which was pretty straightforward. I did some voices, but I kept it calm and kept it reasonable. And
Relatively
then Hayes,
tame. Yeah.
right? And then Hayes comes out and it's like, no, no, let's go crazy. Okay. And I'm a
Permission to go
television guy.
crazy.
Yeah, I'm a television guy. I'm a movie guy. It's like, oh, I can put in voice modulation and special effects. Let's rock.
Cool. It works so wonderfully. Yeah. I mean, and for,
I'm really glad you had a good time.
oh,
The
it's a blast.
intervention will begin in 15 minutes. We will get you out of this lit RPG hell that you found yourself in. We
Speaking
have
of which,
gagged Brian Bell.
speaking of which, what's in the future for Dave? We've got seasons 1 and 2 down. How many seasons are we doing? How many books are we going to have in this series?
Well, so you've done this, and it's like, okay, what's the next story? Because who cares, right? I get done with this. I had a really good time. And if I don't have another one within the next 6 months, I'm going to completely forget that it exists. So that's the goal with Don't Die Dave, is to have Drop Dead Dave by the end of the summer.
Drop
Uh,
dead.
we're changing the tone. And,
Okay.
and so that'll be out by the end of the summer, and then immediately get on book 3 so that there is a trilogy to dig into. And I feel like
Trilogy.
that's the bare minimum for lit RPG,
Okay.
right? We are series readers. We don't want a one-off. So I got to get the first 3 done.
Didn't
If it
didn't George R. R. Martin think that Song of Ice and Fire was going to be a trilogy?
That was a great trilogy that lasted 6 books and a half. Well, and that's the idea, is that you get done with the first 3 books, and if people like it, there's plenty more to do. And quite frankly, this one ends in a way where you could stop here
Yeah.
and it would be a complete story. And so that's the idea with book 3, is you make it so you can stop there and it'll be a complete story. But if people want to keep going, I'm more than happy to keep going, because I will make fun of my son and the way he talks to his friends for as long as I can.
That's so funny. Yeah. Did your son listen to the audiobook?
Okay, so he is audiobook only, right?
Oh,
He's the opposite of us. He doesn't like reading. He only likes listening and experiencing.
okay.
So he's been the audiobook for, Legend of Black Jack, the Rooker Flynn books, the Locke Institute trilogy. He was all audio for that. And he really loved those books. But we got to Don't Die Dave, and he was like, well, could I just read it? I was like, yeah, are you capable of reading? And he's like, well, I kind of want to see what it is. And so he read that on ebook, which, it floored me. And then every night he would come down and give me a report on what was the best part of what he just read.
Oh, that's so cool. Huh. That's the best. That is the best. Having
There's
your
a moment when your son walks into your office at 1 o'clock in the morning, because I'm a night owl and I work at night. But your son walks into your office at 9 o'clock and or 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, Dad, I just finished it. That was awesome. When's the
oh,
next one? I'm like, I win.
you don't need anything else now. No.
Now I can die happy.
Yeah. Huh. That's great. That's wonderful. And did he at any point say you nailed the lingo or whatever? I don't know how they would say that.
Oh, he was a consultant. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
we went through the whole thing. I was like, well, how would they say, oh, gonna get all Riz in her biz, Dad. Gonna get all Riz in her biz. What? Oh, yeah. Well, and then I look it up to make sure he wasn't lying to me.
That's so funny. He could have
But,
he could have had an
any
inside joke
parent,
or two there. Yeah, yeah,
right? And any parent is dealing with 6'7", 6'7", 6'7".
yeah.
And to me, the people that gripe about, Riz and low key and, 6'7", it's just it's like World War I generation people complaining about the word cool, right? It's just like every generation gets their new slate of language because we don't want to use your words.
Right.
And if you're part of the group that goes, no, you can't use those, that's ridiculous. Oh, what is blah, 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 blah. Then you might as well just pass off this mortal coil, because you have nothing more to add and you're not adaptable anymore.
Right.
So
Right.
listening to what they have to say and going, okay, we're going to start using Riz. Okay, we're going to talk about Skibbity Toilet. Okay, we're going to talk about all these things. Let's go.
And these things are keeping someone like Dave alive, right?
Right? Because we need those hype points to keep Dave alive. Keep those views coming.
Right. Wow. Well, that is heartwarming, actually, about your son. So I love that. And I want to thank you for chatting with me and thank you for sharing Don't Die Dave with me. I am excited for your success, which you deserve for this. I think it's fantastic. I hope people will go past the DCC comparison and see the originality that has gone into this as well. I mean, yes, I think it's totally cool and appropriate that you acknowledge, yeah, Matt Denneman, thank you for showing me I could do this. But now
Didn't know I could
I'm
be this
taking
crazy
it
in public.
right. Yeah, I think that's how it should work. This is how, whether we acknowledge it or not. I prefer it when authors do say, yes, so and so was a huge inspiration for me, and I owe so much to so and so, and I got this from so and so, and I like that honesty in authors.
There is no way this book would exist without Dungeon Crawler Carl. That book changed my life
Yeah,
because it opened up doors that I thought were permanently closed.
yeah,
And it was just like, we're allowed to do this? Uh, okay, let's go. And, like I said, that format of lit RPG, yes, it can be grinding and leveling up and overpowered main characters defeating the worst villain in the world and power fantasy crap. But when you can infuse it with satire and public commentary and humor that actually makes you laugh, yes, please give me more of that, because that levity is like I said, I feel like that levity is the thing that we're all desperately in need of right now, because we're all taking ourselves really seriously and we need to stop.
Are there any other lit RPGs like Dungeon Crawler Carl and Don't Die
So
Dave
I've,
that
I've been
do
looking
this?
a lot, and there is a lot of level up stat stuff
Yeah.
that I just don't grok to.
No, I mean with the satire and the humor and all.
Yeah, with the satire and the humor, it's the closest thing I've found is one called Discount Dan,
Okay.
which does a good job of making fun of capitalism and is light throughout. It's
Okay.
got the talking animal companion, it fills all the requirements, and it feels good while you're reading it.
Yeah.
And the audiobook is very good on that one. The other one is Mage Tank. Does a good job of getting humor in there. It doesn't do social satire as much, but it does a good job of hitting a nice vibe. A lot of people talk about He Who Fights with Monsters. That's more stats. A lot of people talk about Primal Hunter, which is more OP leveling up.
Huh.
And I'm missing one.
We'll
Yeah,
have to
but
ask Brian. We'll ask Brian.
yeah, doing research for this, I read maybe 25 lit RPGs,
Oh
and
wow.
there may be there are none that really hit that DCC vibe, but there are two or three
Okay.
that are drafting in that same wake that kind of fill the same emotional needs. And I'd say that's Don't Die Dave and Mage Tank.
So you guys
Uh,
are starting the three of you, I think we could start a new genre, a new subgenre, satirical lit RPG or something. I don't
dude,
know.
I swear to God, I feel like that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Like the leveling up and the stats don't do anything for me, right? It's great when I'm playing the video game and I'm the main character, but reading it in a book, okay, whatever.
Right.
But when you can start making fun of us and society and pointing out the hard truths, right? We're back to truth as being the main thing. There's
But also
truth.
including some heartwarming stuff in there too. Yeah.
I don't know how to do anything else. I don't know. I couldn't do grimdark if I tried.
Yeah.
Right. The Rooker Flynn books are about as dark as I could possibly make them. It's basically a prison story, Devil's Island, Papillon. I don't know if you ever read or saw that movie, but it's about as dark as I can get, and it is 100% at its core about friendship.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I couldn't tell a story another way, because to me that is mainly the point of being, is love, and there's romantic love, and then there's friendship, and friendship covers 80% of what we're looking at.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, I'm glad you're writing them. I'm glad you're writing your books. So
I'm
Thank
glad you read it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But thank you so much, Andy, for your time. And once again, everybody, I'll put a link in the description to Don't Die Dave. And maybe if you have an author website or something, I can stick that in there as well. Um,
arwitham.com.
arwitham.com. There you go. So, but thank you so much, Andy. And thank you, everybody, for listening. But that is it for us for now. Till next time.